of every NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Mash the Gas Podcast, your premier podcast for everything NASCAR Cup Series racing. My name is Kevin Batstone. We are here to break down the Shriners Children's 500 from the Phoenix Raceway. Joining me shortly, Miss NASCAR Sky, and joining me now, Mr. Jeff Davis. Jeff, who mashed the gas the hardest this weekend in the desert?
Well, Sky, Kevin, this is definitely an easy one. You know, getting 3 in a row, leading 105 laps, and his 12th Cup career win. That would be the number 20 of Christopher Bell. He definitely mashed the gas, guys. What do you think?
3 in a row. I mean, it's hard to do in this, let alone this gen car. Just, this level of competition to go 3 in a row is unbelievable. And, we spent a little bit of last week saying, are the Toyotas going to show up this weekend in Phoenix? And Christopher Bell definitely put an answer to that.
I 100% agree. I mean, he's, won on 3 different type tracks as well. I think that's really understated. I mean, Christopher Bell, I think he's taking Martinsville very personal last year. I think he really feels, that he was screwed out of a shot at the championship. So I like to see that he's, instead of channeling that into hate, he's just putting it in, grinding, getting results. And I think that that's really important at the end of the day. And I like to see it for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, missing out on the playoffs, the end of last year is just kind of a kick to him. So to see him with the attitude he does, and he's always got a big old smile on his face no matter what. I love Christopher Bell. He's a great driver. And to see him get 3 in a row like he just did, 3 out of the last 4 races is amazing. When you think about it, that's a quarter of his career wins is just in the last month. So, the last person to actually do 3 in a row was Kyle Larson. And I think that was in like 2018, quite a while back. So it was really cool to see old C-Bell pull it off.
Yeah, and for to open up the season 3 in a row, Kevin Harvick did it around that same time many moons ago. So not an easy task, especially on 3 very unique super speedway, a road course, then a flat 1 mile. Can he go 4 in a row at Vegas? We'll have to see. But I was generally impressed with the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. We saw Denny up there, of course. Penske, we kind of had them pegged as the favorite going into this thing. We saw Blaney blow up there towards the end. Logano, of course, with that controversial penalty, cutting down below the yellow line right at the start-finish line. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you think NASCAR got that call right, or was it, a little bit, could they have been a little bit lenient there?
I feel like they got it right. It's one of those calls where it's either you're below it or you're not. And it's unfortunate for Joey, and it is fortunate in his favor that we had the option tire. It's one of those little nuances that we forget is, that goes into being a driver. You have to be aware of your surroundings at all times. You just have to be vigilant on these things. So ultimately, I think NASCAR got it right. At the end of the day, like I said, he could get it back, and he did get his position back. So you just got to be vigilant on those things.
Yeah, those Penske cars, like we've been talking about this, whole season so far, they've just been mad fast. For Joey to have that penalty, get sucked up way in the back, and to come back and finish in a P13 was just phenomenal. And like we were talking a little bit earlier about the 12 car of Ryan Blaney, he was doing really well all day as well. And I definitely thought he was going to get in the top 5. But, after he blew that engine, it just wasn't in the cards for him. So very unfortunate situation for the 12 car and Ryan Blaney. But definitely cool to see how hard Joey can mash that gas when he needs to.
Yeah, it was a tough break for the 12. I had him going all the way, winning the race, had him in my picks, of course. And, once he came on the radio with about 80 to go and said, I just don't have any power down the straightaways, kind of knew he was doomed, because I thought the 12 had some of the best long run speed out of a lot of those guys he was racing around. He was one of the guys, as we got deeper and deeper into a run, he was passing. He was closing the gap. He was, making advances towards the front, and then just car blew up on him. So it's an unfortunate deal for him. Joey Logano, we mentioned, he led 81 laps, went all the way to the back, option tire to the front. I got to say, guys, that option tire is pretty impressive. We saw Ryan Preece come out of nowhere, leads 34 laps on it. All these guys that elected, Ty Dillon at one point cracked the top 5. There was a couple of guys that were, able to take advantage of that track position to get themselves in position to go back to the primary tire. I like this option tire. I'd like to see it almost become a permanent solution, because we know when we go back for the championship in November, we're only getting 1 tire compound. And I hope we bring that option tire compound for a full-time race.
I think it would be really cool. It really brings a lot of pit strategy, and the crew chiefs have to get this figured out early in the race. Okay, when do I put this tire on? Do I put it on right now because no one else is on it, and I want to get a bunch of lead laps up in there, like you're mentioning, the 60 car, being able to get up there in the crack in the top 5, I thought was pretty damn cool. And after him, and I think it was Cody Ware were the only 2 that had him on. Everyone kind of paid notice. and started slapping those suckers on. And it got to be a really good race. So, do you save them for later on because you know that you're definitely going to get the speed out of them when it comes towards the end of the race, or you do it in the beginning because you're kind of in the rear and you want to get up in that top five? So that's kind of what I thought about it. But I would like to see it in more than just one race a year. It'd be pretty damn cool.
Oh yeah, I agree. I absolutely loved the strategy that it gave the teams. I really thought it just made the entire race just so much more interesting to me. Like you said, we've seen all types of people. I mean, Cindric raced up to the front there for a minute. It was really impressive. I really, really liked the tire. And I think if we ran it full time at Phoenix, for the championship weekend, I mean, there's so many components to go into it. I mean, you heard the way that the commentators were praising Joey for being able to save the tires as much as he could. I mean, he almost had him run like what, 80 laps or something, which was nobody was sure how long we could push him for. So I feel like it's just being such a good strategy. It reminds me just of like old time racing. I don't know, watching the TV when I'm young. It just felt like there was so much more strategy back then.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of that nostalgic feel. And I know Phoenix had a tire test today, a little bit earlier, testing out that a little bit more of that option compound and what Goodyear can do. We're really only going to see it on a handful of racetracks, Phoenix being one, Richmond being the other. We'll probably see him at the All-Star race, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at New Hampshire Motor Speedway when we get there for the playoffs. It really plays into the flat 1 mile tracks. I don't really see an advantage on the ovals, the banked ovals like a Las Vegas or a Texas. I really think this tire plays into those short, flat tracks and gives those guys the grip around the inside there. And you're right, Joey pushed the boundaries of that option tire and until the point where it starts to level out. Because that was the other thing I noticed. Christopher Bell started to close the gap on the option tire about 80 laps later. So made for great strategy all around.
Yeah, it really did. Like you were talking, just the flat tracks. My dad and I were actually discussing this during the race yesterday. The flat tracks are the ones that we love to see it on because there's no really need to do it on the tracks that have heavy banking. It's just not going to do a whole heck of a lot. But definitely Phoenix is a good one. But one of the things I kind of saw in the news was this is the first time Phoenix is not sold out since 2019. And I'm kind of wondering, is that one of the reasons? I mean, if it's sold out for the last, 5 years, 6 years, why was this the first time that it has not sold out? I know, a lot of people kind of complain about Phoenix being the championship and they want it moved around a little bit more. And I think it's about time we did move it from Phoenix, but I really was surprised that it did not sell out.
I actually didn't hear that stat on the Cup side. I mean, I noticed the Xfinity crowd. That is what it is. You're going to get maybe 30, 40,000 for the Xfinity race, which I thought was another fantastic race. Congrats to Eric Amarola. Controversial there putting Bowman in the wall in the 17. But, Phoenix, I think we've discussed this a few times on here. It's kind of run its course. I mean, it's a great race. I think it deserves to be in the playoffs. I think it deserves a spring race for sure. I'm curious as to why we saw a little bit of a dip in attendance. Boyer was alluding to the camping there. Jeff, you and I have spent many, many of races at Phoenix Raceway. I mean, it's a state-of-the-art facility for sure. And I think it really does showcase a great, intermediate short track kind of program. It's a great racetrack there in the desert, but that's interesting. I do think this will be the last time we see the championship in Phoenix here in 2025.
It's got such a really good fan experience for all the fans out there to kind of get up with the drivers and kind of hang out there, to get in victory lane, get on that infield and stuff. It just got a really good program out there in Phoenix. So yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that as well. But definitely a good track. I still think people should go out and hit it if they get the opportunity. And you're right about the Xfinity race. Man, boy, was that an awesome race. And it was, you can see he was disappointed. He wanted to look at it afterwards. But yeah, congrats to Eric Amarola for winning that race. And even on the Cup side, I mean, what a finish. I mean, a last lap finish. Christopher Bell led most of the laps, but Denny Hamlin was definitely in the lead coming on that last lap. And I think that's only happened, three of the last four times this season so far, or not only, but it's three of the last four times the last lap, someone wasn't leading that won.
Yeah, there was a lot of crazy finishes. I mean, even in the ARCA race too, had a pretty intense finish there at the end. But yeah, I'm glad that Christopher Bell is really laying down a reputation of being like kind of like a clean driver. I know he did kind of run Denny up a little bit, but I don't think that was anything too malicious, especially because, he is a teammate. But I think I'm just impressed. I was really impressed with the racing. I've been impressed with the racing the last year or two. Overall in the Cup Series, I think it's come a long way, and they're doing a pretty good job. I don't know what back to Phoenix. I don't know why it dipped. I did see that stat too, Jeff, that this is the first time it hasn't been sold out in a few years. It is. I don't know. Maybe fans are protesting because they don't want it to be the championship race anymore. I'm not too sure on that one.
Yeah, because we think about the West Coast, right? I mean, we have Vegas and we have Phoenix that represents the West Coast. Now that we've lost Fontana, Phoenix 5.5, 6 million metropolitan. You're pulling in all that, Southern California crowd. It's interesting, and I do think we'll sell out when we get there in November for the championship. I think that's kind of a no-brainer, just based on what that is and the crown jewel. But Jeff, we've seen it in Texas, we've seen it in places like New Hampshire, Richmond. Once the attendance starts dipping, that's when drastic changes are started to be made. And I'm not saying Phoenix dropped off that much. I would say maybe 90% occupancy this weekend. Still a pretty good crowd on hand, but things are definitely changing down there in the desert.
Yeah, I don't think it was a whole lot, but it was just interesting to see that it was not sold out. But one thing I kind of wanted to talk about, you guys, and I want to get your thoughts on this. What about Ty Gibbs? I mean, with Granddad owning the team there, and his last finishes have not been very good. I think he's got some issues coming up, and I don't know when his contract's due. Is he due this year, or has he got one more in the bank? Do you guys know?
Well, I think he's on a 4-year deal. I believe this is his third year with Joe Gibbs. But yeah, I mean, 4 terrible finishes and even piggybacking off of 2024, not a good start for that 54 car.
Yeah, I mean, the last 8 races, actually 9 races now, the best finish he's had is a P16. Everything other than that has been 30 and below. So, if Granddad wants to keep him on the team, he's going to have to shape up or ship out compared to what his other teammates are doing.
Well, and there's some truth to that. I mean, some of it's not his fault though, right? I mean, he got caught up in a couple of the wrecks, a couple of mechanical issues, a couple things. I remember the old chocolate milk was shooting out the exhaust pipes last year in Pocono. I mean, he's just had a little bit of a snake bit kind of bad luck stretch. I mean, we'll see if he can turn it around the mile and a half this weekend. But yeah, you're right. The pressure's on. We've seen, FedEx pulling out. We've seen the sponsorship issues at Joe Gibbs. Does Monster stay with that 54 car? But a lot of things that are up in the air.
I agree, but ultimately, I feel like he has a legit enough backing, kind of just the same as Austin Dillon. I mean, we could argue all day that Dillon doesn't perform probably well enough to be in the car that he's in, but I think as long as, Gibbs is his last name, he'll have a ride. But I don't want to give him too much slack 'cause I agree, it's just been bad luck. I do feel like he is a good racer and he has potential. I mean, this is Austin Cindric's third year as well, and he's starting to be a little bit better. I mean, I'm not going to say he's all that great, but he's definitely improved, and I expect the same out of Ty Gibbs for sure.
You mentioned Austin Cindric there. I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts. Once we went off the air last week, we heard the penalties come down on the 2 car from Coda. We had discussed, our thoughts on the right rear hook, the retaliatory, no suspensions. There was some points, there was some fines thrown around. There was definitely some noise made, but we had kind of discussed, is a right rear hook an automatic suspension or not? We learned that it wasn't. Kevin Harvick mentioned in the pre-race, he says, I want it to be clear as day, like we've been saying. Enough of these inconsistencies. If you can't, right rear hooks are a no-go. You do it, you're suspended. But in this case, NASCAR said, well, they were only going 68 miles an hour when he hooked him, so it's okay. But if he's doing 168 at Vegas, then we'll suspend him. So it's like, well, which one is it? A right rear hook's a right rear hook, isn't it not, Jeff?
No, 100% correct on that. Yeah, I mean, he hooked him. I mean, no doubt about it. So he's very damn lucky that it was only points and a monetary fine of, I think, like 50 grand or something like that, which is, a good chunk of change for anybody. But, I heard Bob Pockris was actually interviewing Kyle Busch on that exact situation. And Kyle Busch quoted him and said, hey, put it in a rule book. A right hook will result in a one race suspension, period. End of story. And so I don't think it should really matter whether you're doing 60 miles an hour or 160 or more. But in a way, it still takes a little bit of the fun to me out of NASCAR. I mean, we don't want to see guys get injured, obviously. We don't want to see guys get put in the wall to get injured, anything like that, something serious. But a little bit of retaliation once in a while, a little, shove them in the back, give them the old chrome horn, let them know you're there, stuff like that. But yeah, the right rear hook, it's just a lot of gray area there with what we're looking at in NASCAR, the way they've been calling it so far.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not impressed with the call at all. I mean, obviously, I'm a pretty big Penske fan, but I agree. If it's a right hook, it's a right hook. It should just be that. It shouldn't be, oh, well, unless if you're gonna say, oh, it's gonna be a 60 miles an hour is fine, but 160 is not, then put that in the book. But don't just leave it. It's so open-ended. I feel like NASCAR just loves to have control and they want control over situations. And so they want to at least have their hand a little bit in the outcome of certain things. So it's unfortunate. It really sucks for the sport. And a lot of I could say as a fan, like I don't want to see my driver right hook someone and get suspended. And I don't want to see, my driver get right hooked over something and get injured. I think that altogether it just kind of needs to stop for sure. It's kind of getting old, and I wish NASCAR would really just put their foot down about it.
Absolutely. I mean, safety needs to be the priority, and that's why that rule was put into place. They, shook their fist all offseason and said, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. And then here we are with the scenario. And they're like, well, we'll just let that slide. So I don't know, for what, the third or fourth week in a row now, we're going to call out NASCAR with their inconsistencies. I mean, let's get it together. Let's get it together with the cautions at the super speedways. Let's get it together with these penalties. I just want to see it one way or the other, and let's enforce whatever's in the rule book. If it says no right rear hooks, no right rear hooks. Doesn't matter the speed. So that's what I'd like to see, as we continue out through the season.
Well, we'll see what happens here coming up in Vegas and whatnot. Hey, one of the guys that I was really impressed at this weekend, and I see what you guys thought about this as well, was Josh Berry. Being able to finish fourth for the Wood brothers, I thought that was awesome. For some reason, I just always love seeing the 21 car get in there and get in the top five or even get a win out of it. The Wood brothers have been around the sport for so darn long. It's just really cool to see them with a one car team for so long. And, not the best competitive equipment, so to speak, compared to some of the big boys, but definitely really cool for 21 of the Wood brothers.
Yeah, I bet nobody going into this weekend predicted Josh Berry be the highest scoring Penske car. I mean, granted, it's not obviously Penske. Will Brothers is just an affiliate of Penske, but I did not expect that out of Josh Berry. I'm happy for him. I think it's great. It's nice to see that, the 21 still has some juice left in it. We just got to switch some drivers around. Harrison Burton now back down in Xfinity, but it was really nice to see, especially because he's the highest scoring Ford, and Ford, we're not off to a great start this year. They're not doing too hot.
They're gonna have to clean it up here for sure. I mean, we were kind of, dogging on the Gibbs Toyotas last weekend, but I mean, three in a row for Christopher Bell. That's three Toyota wins. Obviously, Chevy at the Daytona 500. Fords are still winless. I mean, we know they're knocking on the door. We know Penske's going to be fast again this weekend. But yeah, impressive stuff there for the 21 of Josh Berry, Chris Buescher. I think RFK is coming out with a lot of speed. And honestly, I think Spire Motorsports, they showed up with a lot of speed. It's the first time that all three of their cars qualified in the top 10. Now, they didn't have great race results. Carson Hosfar got wrecked. Michael McDowell was caught up in a mess. Justin Haley was involved in a mess. So, I think we're seeing a lot of organizations that we're not used to seeing contend for top tens, right out of the truck qualifying, all that stuff. All these packages are improving, and we're starting to see some different contenders up there. It's not just the Gibbs, Hendrick, Penske show anymore.
I think that's a lot of what this, Gen 7 car, that's what we're running right now. It's a lot of what these cars are bringing out. A lot of teams that used to never really have a chance. This is really like even the field for a lot of these drivers. It's like we're just saying, Josh Berry, seeing him up there, and yeah, he's an affiliate of Penske, so his equipment's decent, but he's not getting all the data that they have. But like you kind of mentioned a minute ago with old Chris Buescher in the 17 car, I thought that was pretty cool for him to get a top five, where his hometown's just about 15 minutes down from where I live, actually. So I always kind of cheer for Chris Buescher. But as far as the old Arizona boys, neither one of them had a very good day. So, Michael McDowell had a bad day, and, the 48 did not do too well either.
That's just the way it goes, sometimes. And a lot of wrecks in this race, guys. I mean, there was early wrecks, the back straightaway mess. We had like a big one going down the back straightaway. I mean, we saw quite a few wrecks at Phoenix. And I think that's the other thing is you get that short track kind of feel with Phoenix. You get a lot of beating and banging. We got cars spinning off turn two. Catherine Legg, she, was involved, spun on lap 4 there, and then, was involved in a wreck a little bit later on. But all in all, I think that, she can take away a pretty decent start there for BJ McLeod's racing team. Got some experience under her belt, and it was cool to see, the first female start since 2018.
I know it was so unfortunate to see Suarez get caught up in that, though. I mean, he was running like what, sixth or seventh at the time. Granted, I know I'm pretty sure that was like when all the option tire stuff was going on, so I'm not sure where he would have placed, but it was tough to see him get caught up in something like that.
Completely bummed out for the 99 of Suarez as well. I just thought he couldn't avoid it, got caught up, and he's just having some bad luck this year too, but Catherine Legg, she even said it after the race, she got thrown into this baptism by fire. This is her first race, really no practicing, not a whole lot of sim racing. So, good experience for her. Love to see her come back in, get a race in next year maybe, or run some Xfinity races, who knows. But yeah, good for her. But like you said, Sky, I really did feel bad for the 99 of Suarez.
Tough break there for sure. all around. I mean, if BJ McLeod was in that 78, I don't know how much better of a running position that car, could have put up. I mean, I think it was a 28-second lap time in qualifying, but just good to see some different faces coming in. I felt bad for, we mentioned Chris Buescher earlier, his boss, Brad Keselowski. He's having a rough couple weeks here. Last week after Cody, he had that heat exhaustion. Obviously, he's good to go back on the horse, but got involved in the wreck. Another P33 for him. So Brad's having some tough luck, but, his old stable there, Chris Buescher, he's going to win some races this year. I really feel. I mean, he was so close at Kansas last year. I really feel like this 17 car is going to go out and win probably 2 or 3 races this year.
Yeah, I do too. Chris Buescher's, he did really well last year. He's good on the super speedways, pretty good on the road courses, but I think we'll see a couple wins out of him for sure. So yeah, I was really stoked again just to see him in there. But kind of like you're mentioning, as far as his boss goes, old RFK and Brad Keselowski getting a bad finish, man. He's having some bad luck, and not much you can really do about luck. I'd rather have luck than skill anyway, any day. But and Brad, we know he's got skill, and they've obviously got good equipment since we've got Chris Buescher up there in the top 5 on this last weekend. It's just a matter of being able to complete the race.
Yeah, it's been a tough break for Brad. I feel bad. He's always caught up in other people's stuff, it seems like. But I'm really impressed with that. We mentioned him earlier a little bit, but Ryan Preece, he's really been impressing me since he's gotten to that 60 car. I wasn't too sure what to expect, especially with how Stewart-Haas ended, but it was hard to gauge that because Stewart-Haas was just kind of mediocre at best, last season. So it's good to see. I have a lot of faith in Ryan Preece. I'm sure. I also think that he'll get a win this year. I think RFK will be pretty much one of the top 4.
They're definitely going to carry some of the Ford weight for sure. I think we've seen it, like it's the Penske plus, if you will, with, old Josh Berry there. I mean, those guys are kind of leaning in. We can't forget about Front Row Motorsports, right? Zane Smith. I mean, top 10 for Zane Smith in that 38 car. Another potential Ford contender as this season clicks along. Todd Gilliland, I do think Todd's going to start to put some good finishes together. I mean, outside of the super speedways, we've kind of always pictured the 34 or the 38 as a super speedway contender. But, I'm ready to get to Vegas and kind of see now, we've gotten through Phoenix now. Great. Now we get to the mile and a half, the meat and potatoes, Jeff, as we know. Vegas is going to be in the playoffs. We go to Texas. We got Kansas coming up. A lot of mile and a halves. This is kind of where we see who's got the speed, who's going to be quick, and who's going to dominate, because we have a lot of these in the playoffs.
Yeah, we really do, and I think it's really interesting when you look at the standings, not playoff standings, but the standings as is right now. William Byron, he's got 1 win. He's 165 points, but he has won more stage racing than anybody else. So when I was looking at that this afternoon, kind of caught me off guard. I was expecting old Seabell to be up there with his 3 wins, but then I was like, well, wait a minute, look at all the stage points that William Byron's been able to achieve. And that's what that does for you. And that's what a lot of these drivers need to think about. When you're running these races, where do I need to be? Do I want stage points right now? Stack them up, rack them up. And that's exactly what William Byron's been doing. Tyler Reddick, he hasn't won a race yet, but he's in P3 as far as the standings go. And then, of course, rounded out, we got Ryan Blaney in P4 and Chase Elliott in P5. Neither one of those guys have won a race yet, obviously, because Christopher Bell seems to be hogging them all.
Yeah, I really was expecting more out of the 9 of Chase Elliott, just the way he qualified, the way he practiced, and just in general. I mean, obviously his teammate Kyle Larson bringing it home P3, but, is it the worst thing in the world to come on P10? No, but Chase just didn't seem to have the speed all day. His teammates, the 24 and the 5, seemed to, be ripping. We talked about 48 earlier, had some trouble, but, NASCAR's most popular driver, it just, I'm not seeing it, guys. I'm not seeing the speed out of this 9 car that I was expecting with Alan Gustafson and team. Is Vegas an opportunity? It could be. I mean, we know that Chase Elliott's won at Texas before. He has won on mile and a half. He won at Kansas. So it's a possibility that these guys can, steer the ship back on the right course here in Vegas. It's just tough to say where these Chevys and these Fords, and I mean, Ford really has the most to battle for here. They got to try to get to victory lane, and we're going back to a place where Joey Logano won in the fall. So maybe this is the one that he has circled.
The 9 camp, they have everything that they need. They got the speed, they got the driver, they got the skill on the box, but it's just like they cannot get the results fully during a race. I mean, he's been consistent. He's been good. It's better to get, top 10 and top 15s compared to finishing, 30th. But yeah, it's been a tough break for Chase Elliott. I love to see him back in victory lane, but I'm super excited for Las Vegas this weekend. I'm not sure if I think the 9 can get it done. I mean, he could surprise me, but I'm not sure the 9's the one that's on my radar.
Yeah, he's not on my radar either. I'd agree with you there for Las Vegas. And there was another stat that I found that's pretty interesting that there are just 5 drivers right now that have led on the lap in all led a lap in all of the 4 races we've had so far, and that's Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, John Hunter Nemechek, Chase Elliott, and Tyler Reddick. So good for Chase for getting those points. That's the only reason he's got his standings where he is. But like what you said, Sky, he's got all the equipment, he's got everything. He just needs to execute a little bit better to get that W and to get a win out of it.
Putting the whole thing together, that's what it takes. We see how difficult these races are and the strategy that plays into it. And Vegas is going to be interesting this weekend. I'm glad we're getting to a mile and a half, like I was saying earlier, to get back to kind of the nuts and bolts and the meat and potatoes of the sport. Joey Logano, of course, won this race in the playoffs. Christopher Bell, P2. So does he go 4 in a row? He certainly got a chance. I mean, he was out there battling for the win last year against Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, William Byron, Alex Bowman. Just looking back on some of these results from the fall, and then when we double back to the spring race from 1 year ago, Kyle Larson won this race. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, and Ty Gibbs. So pretty unique names up in there. I think this is really going to, kind of be the benchmark and the measuring stick of where these guys are stacked up. And I think for me, I got to go heavy with Joey Logano again. I feel like the 22 is at least an early favorite. The 20, you have to put the 20 in there, right? Just on pure momentum alone. The chances of him going 4 in a row aren't great, but I think it's quite possible. Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, is this a chance for Trackhouse to get back on? So these are kind of some of the early drivers I'm keeping an eye on.
And the one I was also thinking of keeping an eye on too is Tyler Reddick. I mean, he ran pretty damn well here in Phoenix, so it was unfortunate that he couldn't get as good of a finish as he wanted, but he took second place out there in Las Vegas for the spring race. So, but I think you're right about the Penske cars. I really do. Blaney, Austin Cindric in the 2 car, I think are 2 to really watch. Logano's going to, of course, he's going to be up there. But Ross Chastain, look at him. He took a P4, and Ty Gibbs, I think that was his best finish he had the entire year, was his P5 on Vegas last year. So we'll just kind of have to see. But those are some of the guys I've got my eye on. I'm also keeping an eye on Denny Hamlin. He came from what on that last lap. If it wouldn't have been for the overtime, I think he was sitting in P5, if I remember correct. And just nose for nose is going back and forth with Christopher Bell. And I have to give props to the number 5 of Kyle Larson for not ducking down. He's like, if I would have tried to get that win, I felt that I would have caused a wreck, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to run everybody clean. So again, Kyle Larson takes the high road and just, plays a class act out of it. And then we just saw what happened. That was a 0.0045 finish that Christopher Bell got over Denny Hamlin, if I remember correct.
Yeah, a couple close finishes.
Less than half a second or something like that.
Close finishes in Phoenix, all weekend. ARCA race was fantastic. Went to overtime. We mentioned the Xfinity race there, Eric Amarola and Alex Bowman, another great. So, I mean, all in all, I think the racing in Phoenix this weekend was terrific. It's something to build on for sure. And for them to build a marketing, package for coming back for the championship later this year. I think the option tire was great. I think the other 2 series put on a great show. And now we get back to the mile and a half. We got the trucks, Xfinity and Cup full weekend out there. So here we go. It should be good. Sky, who are you taking for Vegas this weekend? You rolling the dice on anyone?
Oh, I am. I'm basing this off of feelings. I just have a good feeling that good old hometown Kyle Busch gets it done this weekend. I mean, he's been hovering around in the top 10 the last few weeks. I mean, he's been running up front the last few races. And I mean, if anybody really needs a win, I mean, it's got to be Kyle Busch.
That's a good pick. The hometown kid, old Kyle Busch. I'd like to see it. I mean, he deserves it. We know the struggles he's had with RCR, but this year he just seems a little more calm and cool and collected. Jeff, he's aggressive when he needs to be. Always going to speak his mind. The 8 car, that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think he needs to get the monkey off his back. He got a top 10 in the spring standings last year in Vegas, and like you said, he's a hometown boy. So we'll have to see what happens. Never forget the time that Kyle Busch wrecked his brother Kurt. Was that about a month or so before Thanksgiving to get the win, and that interview was pretty funny. I can't remember who was in the booth saying that I would not want to be at the Thanksgiving table for that Thanksgiving between those guys, but it definitely made me laugh. What Kyle Busch does, but you're right. Yeah, he's got to get that monkey off his back and get the win.
He's coming up on 61 race winless streak. You know, he hates that more than anything. Kyle Busch wants to win. You know, is he in the best equipment in RCR? I don't think so, but you know, you've got a talented driver, you got a hungry driver, you got a veteran driver. You know, everyone says he's washed up and this, that, and the other, but he's been consistent. You know, he's showing up with speed. He's qualifying well. I think the 8 car is definitely a great pick for fantasy this weekend. You know, and then who else? I mean, you could go off and you take, like I said, the Trackhouse, the 99, I think is good. You know, John Hunter Nemechek, it might be, you know, an opportunity to roll the dice on Legacy Motor Club a little bit. And honestly, I think another good sleeper would be Bubba Wallace. You know, I think 23XI. We mentioned Tyler Reddick. I think Bubba's another great pick.
Bubba would be pretty good. I'm kind of keeping my eye on Hamlin, even though, you know, here in Phoenix, this was his first top 5 finish this year, which kind of surprises me for Denny Hamlin. But that's who I'm kind of keeping my eye on for next week in Las Vegas, Denny Hamlin in the 11 car.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely could see Denny Hamlin getting it done. It's tough because I could see Blaney getting it done. I'm just excited to see. I love Las Vegas. It's always good. There's always some good storylines. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out this weekend, or I guess this upcoming weekend.
I'm taking the 22 for the win. It's the Pennzoil 400, right? It's Joey's sponsor. He's coming off a win there last year. He's got speed. I'm picking your driver, Sky. I'm taking the 22 to go all the way to victory lane. And second to that, I'm going to go with Blaney too. I think Blaney's going to be right there with him. I know I said that for Phoenix, but this is going to be a Penske weekend. I feel it.
Well, hopefully Joey does win because I accidentally dyed my hair orange and I can't dye it back until he does win. So hopefully he can get it done for me.
Yeah, what's the orange hair about, Sky? What does that represent?
No, it was supposed to be ginger, but it didn't. It turned out bright neon orange. But I kind of like it. It gives Paramore, Haley Williams emo vibes. I kind of like it, I guess.
So you're going to keep it until he gets the win, huh? You're going to keep it until he gets the
Yep.
W.
That's what the fans want. So that's what I got to do.
I love it. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Well, you're probably only going to have to do it until next Monday because 22 is winning this weekend. That's what I'm calling for the Pennzoil 400. My dad's going to be out there in Vegas. I know he's excited for this race. Should be good. Hopefully a good crowd out there. I mean, I think, you know, we'd mentioned Phoenix being down. Vegas is kind of hit or miss on a sellout. I think they pull a better crowd for the playoffs, but I think we'll see a good crowd out there. It's Vegas. I mean, everyone wants a reason to go do something, go gamble. You know, it's a fantastic city. Looking forward to it, guys. We have a full weekend coming up with the trucks Friday night, Xfinity on Saturday evening, and then a Cup Sunday on FS1. So let's do it. Jeff, who you got?
Well, I think the Penskes are definitely strong. I think I am going to go with Danny Hamlin, but I am gonna still ride the wave. I think with the 20 car. I mean, he's just on such a heater. Even if he doesn't win, I have a feeling he's going to get a top 5 out of it. So, you know, when you're hot, get those points while you can get them.
Rolling the dice, Las Vegas. Looking forward to it, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Mash the Gas Podcast. We will be back next Monday night to break down all of the action from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. There's going to be some storylines coming out of that, I can already guarantee you. The weather's looking decent, mid-60s, a little bit of wind out there, so no rain delays as far as we can tell. We're going to get this thing in. So let's go. Let's roll that dice. Let's head on out to Las Vegas, and until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.